This was the last time I got on the scale, by the way. It was this story I'm about to tell you. And I realized that like my self-sabotaging thoughts are so crazy. Like they were so bad.
There's something wrong with you. Your body will never look the way that you want it to look. All the things that work on everyone else will never work on you.
And that's how I know I'm gonna get everything that I want, because I've literally never embodied this version of myself before. I want that for you more than anything. If you cannot figure out why you feel the need to just mess things up right as they're about to get good, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to beat that self-sabotage for good so that you can actually live in and enjoy the good part because you deserve it. You are now tuned in to episode 2 of the Already Her October series. I'm your girl Rima, your tough loving big sis who takes her own advice. And I'm gonna hold your hand through the rest of this video. So I'm welcoming you into the girls' room where we're gonna be doing my hair together while I share my stories and personal struggle and triumph with the bit known as self-sabotage. I just turned 32 and I'm having such awesome, enlightening moments actually beating her ass, but it wasn't always like that. So let's rewind back to a time where she used to beat my ass and beat it bad. The year was 2022. I had been working out pretty consistently and I had this goal of losing 20 pounds. I was a lot heavier than I am right now at the time. I had gained quite a bit of weight, but I'd always yo-yoed with my weight back and forth. If you've been watching my videos, you know that's kind of been part of my life. But at this point in time, I felt particularly heavy, so much so that I didn't really want to get on the scale. But I had been losing a little bit of weight given that I'd been working out consistently, and I felt very good about where my habits were headed. I was going on a trip actually to France with my husband, my brother, and his partner. And we were actually together in March before our trip in July. And my brother-in-law was like, let's do a competition. Let's see who can lose the most weight before we meet again in July. My brother-in-law is like 6'7", obviously weighs more than me. So we're like, let's do it as like a percentage of pounds per whatever our current weight is. Trying to speak in math terms while holding a hot tool is not really my forte. But anyway, I was like, okay, you know what? Like I could use some competition. I can be competitive. This will be really fun. Really cool. And I had so much confidence in where I was at the time as far as my habits that I'm like, okay, it's March, we're meeting up in July. That's what, 4 months, I got this. But of course that meant me and my arch nemesis, the scale, had to reunite so that I could have like a benchmark weight. So I decided to weigh myself. I think I had probably weighed in at like, I want to say like 175. So I'm like, okay, benchmark weight 175. And then I started really going hard. I was even doing 2-a-days. And this was, mind you, like 4 months of me going very hard at the gym. A little note from the editor, as I'm re-listening to this, I just fact-checked what I just said. It turns out that it was only 2 months of hard work. We went to France in July, at the beginning of July. We actually met up in Miami in May. In an effort not to kill the rest of the story I'm about to tell you, just keep in mind the detail that I stored in my memory that it was 4 months when it was really only 2 months of my hard work. All right, I'm gonna go get back to editing. You get back to the rest of this story. I didn't weigh myself during that time because the scale kind of triggers me and it starts telling me these really negative stories that are just not helpful to my overall process. But obviously I had to weigh myself one more time before our France trip. Terrible idea. I weighed myself. And I was literally the same exact weight. Like I didn't even lose like a 0.1 or anything like that. Like it was the same exact number. I wish I could describe to you exactly how that felt, but I'll try my best, even though I'm so far removed from the person I was on that day, thank God. But I just felt defeated. I felt extremely discouraged. I also felt defective. Like I genuinely felt like there was something wrong with my body because I knew I had been working my ass off and I could see my lean muscle mass growing. I could feel myself actually feeling lighter or feeling better because I was so active, yet the scale was telling me the same story. And I'm not even gonna get into the whole thing of like, yeah, but muscle weighs more than fat, da 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 da. The truth is I still wasn't where I wanted to be. I just was expecting the scale to give me something. I felt so ashamed, and I think that one thing I hadn't anticipated was this little competition element of it made that shame public. So now not only do I feel this failure, like I literally failed at something that I care so much about, but I can no longer keep this failure to myself. I have to actually report back and let people know that I failed. And I think we were also betting money or something, which is whatever, that wasn't even the big deal, but it was more so just how it all felt. hell and I'm about to go on this little vacation and I just feel like I failed at something. So it totally backfired. I went into the shower that day. I let myself cry. Like I remember saying like, cry, let it out. You know, you feel a lot of things, let it out. Then we're gonna get over it. Keep going, have fun. But I remember sending my brother-in-law this like really cute text message where I'm like, honestly, this was really difficult for me. I was not anticipating that this would be like so jarring for me to see the same exact number. And I don't like how this feels. And in retrospect, like I probably shouldn't have done this because this has triggered a lot of feelings for me. I never quite got over that, to be honest. So aside from me just losing a competition, that was like the least of my worries. There was this story that got ingrained in my head literally from that day. And even I remember this story was kind of a story that would load in my head throughout all of my weight loss struggles, but it was a story that got imprinted on that day. And the story was, there is something wrong with my body. The reason that that story was able to like get embedded in my head was because the other story that I told myself, I feel like I need my hands right now, so this is just gonna have to wait. But the other story that I told myself was, you have done everything right and your body is just defective. You have been working out 5 times a week. You're doing so much more than you normally do and you're just not losing the weight. The parts that I very conveniently left out, and actually before I tell you what I left out, this is the point where I want to let you know self-sabotage relies on the lack of logic. Let me repeat that again. Effective self-sabotage thrives on the lack of logical thinking, because these stories that I was telling myself and persuading myself were so emotional and so lacking in truth. They were delusional by definition. And I don't mean that in a cute way. Like Delulu is not the Salulu in this very specific scenario that I'm talking about here. I was deluding myself into truly believing I was doing everything right. Was I working out way more than I normally did? Yeah, I was. Was my calorie burn way higher than normal days? For sure. I feel like I could probably even pull up some of that data for you. Was I having like 3 cheat meals a week? Yeah. Was I ordering? I could probably pull up the DoorDash receipts or the Uber Eats or Postmates receipts because I use all 3 of them. Was I making pasta dishes like twice a week, if not more? I was, but we weren't talking about that, right? Because self-sabotage relies on the lack of logic. It has to make you believe that your body is just defective and therefore you'll never get what you want. It has to make you believe that you just weren't born to make a lot of money, or someone like you just does not deserve a healthy relationship. How else can you believe such wild ass stories like that than for you to strictly abandon the reality of the situation? Because if you were to focus on the reality, you would see there are so many people who were worse off than me that ended up more wealthy and even more successful than I am. There are so many people who had worse upbringings than me who are in some of the healthiest, most beautiful relationships. You don't want to focus on things that are also true because they basically discount the story that you're trying to tell yourself. Now, if you're at the point in this video where you're wondering why the hell anyone would want to delude themselves into believing something so negative, let's talk about that, because I would wonder that too. I felt like for a lot of my life, I kind of resonated with being someone who sabotages good things, but I could never understand, like, why would I want to do that? And I think that's the other point I want to hit on with self-sabotage. Self-sabotage not only relies on the lack of logic, but it's not about what you think you want. It's about who you actually think you are. That's why you sabotage things that you think you want. It is about who you actually, underneath it all, believe that you are. This week, we took some photos at the pumpkin patch. And as I was looking through some of these photos, I was admiring how I looked. I'm like, wow, my body looks really good. Like, my work is paying off. And I realized that in the past, whenever I would see photos, and let me know if you resonate with this, because I don't know if this is a hyper-specific experience or if other people can resonate with this. Whenever I would start losing weight and I would see photos of me where I looked good and I looked like my work was paying off, one of 2 things would happen, or both things. Number 1, I wouldn't see the photo for what it was. So instead of actually being able to acknowledge that I looked good, I would experience what we now call like weight loss blindness, where I would still think that I don't look good and I wouldn't be able to see my results. By the way, that still kind of happens to me even now. But something even way more interesting would happen, especially in the moments where I would see the results, where I'd look at a photo and I'd be like, oh, I'm losing weight, I'm looking good. I would look at that image and I wouldn't feel like I'm that person. The most crazy thing that would happen next is I would always end up gaining the weight right back after that moment. It's almost like seeing myself look good was weirdly triggering for me. And again, when you hear me say something like that, you'd be like, why the F would seeing yourself getting what you want be triggering for you? And it's because the person who you believe you are in this moment does not recognize the person who's getting what she wants, and you feel uncomfortable by that idea. It quite literally challenges the identity that you're currently holding. You're holding an identity of someone who's broke, of someone who's in abusive relationships, of someone who doesn't deserve the promotion or deserve the beautiful house or deserve the luxurious life. In my case, I was holding the identity of someone whose body is defective and doesn't deserve to feel good in her body. So when I would see photos of myself looking like my body's not defective, like it's actually working, like my work is paying off, that would obviously challenge the identity of the person whose body is defective and who can never be in a body that looks comfortable for her. And so the identity that I was currently holding, would mess it all up so that I can look at a photo 2 weeks from then or 2 months from then and be like, that's more like it. Yep, that looks more like me. Yep, that's me. Saying this out loud is kind of wild. I really wonder if that resonates with you. It's kind of why we talk about people who are ironically more comfortable in abusive relationships. Because that's who they believe they are. They believe that there's someone who is meant to be in an abusive relationship. And so something about a healthy relationship confuses the hell out of them. They're like, this feels so uncomfortable. And you don't realize that the discomfort is because your current identity is attracted to toxicity. So you find things wrong with it because you're more attached to the current identity than you are to the reality that you think you want. I was literally here. This is our home in Minnesota, by the way. And I was here 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more. And I vividly remember being on this bed, feeling all the thoughts swarm in because I had weighed myself. Notice how like the scale is a trigger for me. I was doing really well. This was this past year. Doing really well, really like focused, seeing some progress, being very focused, not just on my workouts, but also finally on what I was actually consuming, the calories I was consuming, the food I was consuming, whether I felt good in my body. And I was feeling so good in my body. I got on the scale for some stupid reason. This was the last time I got on the scale, by the way. It was this story I'm about to tell you, and this is why. And the number just didn't show any progress. And I had a moment again. I felt all the thoughts spiral in. All those thoughts.
Your body's defective. Nothing works for you. You might as well just give up. Like, what are you even doing? Why is this?
And I remember sitting on this bed right here and just observing the thoughts. It was the weirdest, most surreal, but most powerful and effective thing that I have ever done as it relates to this. I let myself sit in the discomfort, and I very vividly felt like I was at a fork in the road. I could either let the thoughts drown me and take me upstream or downstream, wherever they were trying to take me, like I normally would, or I could, stand my ground, hold firm, allow the thoughts to kind of pass through like a tornado or a hurricane, but hold my ground and just stand still. And I chose the latter for the first time literally in my life. And that was the day where I realized self-sabotage in a weird way is a choice. And allowing those thoughts to get in the driver's seat is also a choice. And as uncomfortable as it felt to make a different choice that day, I made a different choice. And it really did feel like there was this freaking current just trying to take me, and I just would not go. And don't get me wrong, let's be real. Like, it's not like I was swimming against it and triumphing. It wasn't this like beautiful day. Like, no, it was a shit day. It truly felt like it took every ounce of mental and emotional and spiritual strength for me to stand firm as this current was passing through me, because that's how toxic those thoughts were. The two valuable things that I got out of that day, number one is I didn't obviously let the storm take me and drown me and like ruin all the good things I had done for myself, obviously. But number two, for the first time, it actually exposed me to the thoughts. Like, I was able to watch them pass by and hold them object and examine them, kind of like I'm on this like conveyor belt and I'm making sure the quality of those thoughts are good before I let them pass through or before I keep them. And I realized that like my self-sabotaging thoughts are so crazy. Like, they were so bad. And I'm telling you, they were literally those thoughts of like,
There's something wrong with you. Your body will never look the way that you want it to look. You will never feel good in your body. You're just defective. All the things that work on everyone else will never work on you. You do everything right.
look how delusional it is.
You're doing everything right, but it's just not working.
That was one of the best days ever. because I was able to really break through. It wasn't the best day, like I said in the moment. It was one of the worst days ever. But the next day, I truly, truly, truly felt like the sun just came out and all the birds were chirping. I felt like it was like untraversed territory. Like, oh shit, I've never been on this side before. Like, I've always just stopped it at that moment. And I've had, I want to say, at least 5 moments since then. That was about 6 months ago. Since then, I've had at least 5 moments like that. And each moment felt the same exact thing. It felt like I was about to be drowned out in all my thoughts. And now I've just learned to say them out loud. I either write them down because I want to hold them accountable. And this is really what I want you to take from this conversation. Like, regardless what it is that you have sabotaged before, you really do hold the power. Not to be cliche, but like, nothing happens without your approval. You really are in the driver's seat. And so I want you to understand that if you're sabotaging something, it's because subconsciously something about that feels more comfortable for you. Something about the familiar but unwanted result is better than the unfamiliar wanted result. The discomfort of the thing that you think you want actually far outweighs the discomfort of the thing that you've already had. You would rather keep creating the same results because something about that feels more familiar, obviously, and comfortable to you. It does feel very unfamiliar to be the person who doesn't sabotage her results after she sees a picture of herself that she likes. And the only way that I've been able to do that is truly by like saying these thoughts out loud and realizing like, damn, these thoughts are crazy. This is who I was letting drive the boat. No wonder that they kept taking me into all these crazy storms. No wonder I haven't had a day of peace because I've been choosing the wrong thoughts. And one of the thoughts that I've been choosing lately as it relates to my weight loss is change is not always linear. Like, you could gain a pound. I'm not weighing myself at all. I'm giving myself full permission not to do that because I don't see any value in constantly re-triggering myself. But just reminding myself that if there's a day where I feel heavier or if I fell off, whatever that even means, like, this is a lifetime. This is a lifestyle that I'm building. And so it's okay for things not to constantly be this downward trend. Like, I can have days that are not fully aligned with where I'm trying to go and still recover times 10. And that has been a very hopeful thought for me, is like, change is not always linear, but there's also no deadline. Like, I'm not competing against the shot clock. Like, there's no wins or losses. And I think that's also why the competition was particularly triggering for me. But for you, I want you to start by literally like journaling out the thoughts that you have when you get triggered. They're deep down there sometimes, and you're so used to hearing them that you don't even realize what they sound like. But when you really hold them object and look at them and examine them from your rational brain, you're gonna be so dumbfounded. It might be something like,
I deserve someone who treats me like shit. I'm a burden in a relationship. I have such bad money habits. I don't deserve to have money. I'm not good enough for God.
That was a deep one for me that I had to work through back in the day. Honestly, like, life will literally change on the other end of those thoughts. Once you de-pedestalize those thoughts and you take their driver's license away, don't let them drive anymore. Let them sit. They can sit in the passenger seat and watch. And when you really get confident, you can even treat them like a child, like you're parenting these thoughts. And you're like, oh, you think you know shit? Okay, sit right here. Sit down. Not a word. Shut up. Be quiet. And watch me work. That's kind of the energy that I've had, because it kind of hits on my competitiveness in a cute way, where I feel like I have something to prove to my old self, but also I'm treating these thoughts as the little crybabies that they are. I'm not taking them so seriously like I used to in the past. I'm so excited to keep you posted on this journey. I have never had more faith in the version of myself that I am today. And I'm just very grateful to be speaking about all of this from such a different perspective, from the perspective of someone who has approached several forks in the road and chose the different path. Chose a path that literally looks so different from any path I've ever walked on mentally. And that's how I know I'm gonna get everything that I want, because I've literally never embodied this version of myself before. I want that for you more than anything. As usual, I will not be asking you to like or subscribe, but if you like this video, bring a friend with you next time. Let's leave people even more powerful than we found them. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.